I live in a less idealistic world to yourself.
I'm a radical. I will live in the gutter. You fuck me. I will burn it down and I will paint myself with the ashes. Yeah, I am. I'm recognize that. I'm a lifer.
Yeah,
I reckon. Yeah.
I'm living in the reality of, right, what can we actually achieve? What
Yeah.
can we actually achieve at this point in time? Of how do we need to get to that point? And it isn't going to happen all of a sudden by exploding like Thailand. I mean, bringing it on to other sort of countries, how Thailand's gone about it. And it's again, it's just a mess over there as well. It's just
Well, I
absolutely
mean,
exploded.
I
But
think
then you look at Malta, which have come up with a path, and Germany and the way that they're doing, going to model that hopefully in a year's time we'll have some results from.
yeah. So there's an interesting discrepancy in the laws of comparing sort of Malta and Germany. So quickly for the audience that may not be aware, Malta's sort of how the hell do you it's a quasi decriminalization model, I suppose. It's a quasi de jure decriminalization model, I think is the ultimate proper way of describing it. That came into effect on December 2021. Its first club opened in February 2024. That would be this year. Malta is different from Germany in that the possession limit is 7 grams. You can buy up to 7 grams from a club. It's capped similar to Germany at 50 grams a month. Smoking is prohibited in public anywhere. It's a €235 fine, or that lifts up to €500 if it is near a child. They haven't given the distance, as far as I can see, how far away from a child you need to be. Up to 28 grams, or so between 7 and 28 grams, will result in being taken before a tribunal, quite similar to the Portuguese system that was sort of initiated, though I'm not sure. I need to check in on the Portuguese, see if that's still going or if it's been overwhelmed. They can request expungement, which is something the Germans I haven't seen as well. So if low level possession under an ounce, you can basically write a letter and you should have a conviction lifted. The clubs are also limited to 500 in both regions. Home grow is limited to 4 plants per household. It doesn't say if that's per year or whether that's per cycle, so we're not sure. I'm not sure on that.
I think that's per cycle, as I understood in Germany. And
Germany's written per year. Like it
right.
was expressed per year, but Malta, I haven't seen whether it's expressed or not. But the interesting thing is Malta have followed the Germans. You can have 4 plants at home, but no more than 50 grams of cannabis. So I don't know quite how that works. And again, how they would enforce this. This is the thing that if there's arbitrary limitations and restrictions for the vast majority of people, that's fine. But they will use that as the precursor to target the people that they don't like. Do you know what I'm saying? You might be an activist talking a bit too loud and they know you've got 5 plants instead of 4. So they can come knock on it. Do you know what I mean?
You've brought a good point up here, and which comes up again is how is things policed? And I think maybe a lot of the kind of hesitation as well is the system that needs putting into place and the people. I mean, at the moment, in order to obtain a legal cultivation license in the UK, you go by the Home Office. Now, it's the same department that deals with firearm applications and licensing as well. And there are very few people. And if you've ever been involved in actually applying for one of these license, the Home Office do not move at any great speed. Respondence is not at a great pace. Feedback is not great. It's like trying to get blood out of a stone to move things forwards. And then eventually things do start to move forwards. Mm-hmm. So that whole sort of side of things needs putting into place. And how do we fund that as well? Where does it start? We kind of end up a little bit in the chicken and egg situation is, how do we get the funds in to be able to do that? And then we've got all of those people, and this came up in Germany as well. What about those who have already been convicted for this and cannabis offences only? Do we just let them all out? Mm-hmm. Is that just then? But how do we then process that through the system? How does that come about? And it would be great, as I say, magic wands, sort everything out. Everybody who had been locked up had been. But are they going to start then looking at wanting, sorry, my brain's gone a bit numb.
Compensation?
That's the word. That's the word.
Mm.
That creates a whole issue as well.
Well, this is one of the arguments that's been put forward in scholastic and legal circles, is that the reason that we're choosing this legalization route rather than removing kind of previous laws is exactly that, is the liability of governments. So in the UK, when we ripped up the criminalization of homosexuality, that basically set forth a pathway for the government to be responsible to it, as it did I can't remember the year, but it was many decades later, made a public apology for the criminalization and the lives kind of ruined. And they obviously gave a public apology. Jesus Christ, I think not that long ago. It was like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to Alan Turing, who they chemically castrated after the fucking Second World War. It's justice is going to come inevitably, but I don't think it's fair that there should be a multi-trillion-dollar international cabal in all this industry when the governments haven't acknowledged the wrong. Do you know what I mean? And I think so. The approach that I want to see is global elements come together and let's fucking take on the UN, man. There are three fucking documents that we need to amend: the 61 Convention, the 71 Convention, and the 88 Convention. If we want international trade, we could leave the 88 Convention theoretically. But if we amend those conventions and we flip the script, for me, we would decriminalize, or in the old parlance, legalize cannabis across the board, and then start putting pressure on countries that criminalize cannabis the same way we do with elements that demonize like gay rights, or that don't follow environmental protocols or things like this. We use sanctions, we use other forms of international governance to, I don't want to say force compliance. I don't want to sound like an authoritarian. I'm very not fucking authoritarian. But I think while these mechanisms exist, this could be for the betterment of all nations. If you want to talk about carbon sequestration, cannabis is the best thing on the fucking planet. Research and development, if instead of being in a couple of labs in America and China and here and there, was everywhere in every bedroom, we would advance. If it was grown in every curbside, it demands to be unrestricted. It's literally, as Jack Herrer, said that, to paraphrase him, it doesn't know if cannabis will save the world, but it's the only fucking thing at this point that can. Like, in terms of its multi-versatile resource, and any of these artificial restrictions and limitations placate the movement for freedom, because everyone goes, yeah, we've got 25 grams. Yeah, we've got 25 grams. But then it's not going to take until a few years till one of them gets caught out with 28. What happens to Dave when he gets, I don't know what a German Dave, guys, who is Dave in Germany? This is in the name equivalency. Hans? I don't know. I don't know my German names that very well. But anyway, so if they get caught out, like I said, with 28 grams, what happens when the police knock on his door and he's got 4 plants? What happens if he gets stopped and it's in the wrong part of the car and they've considered that trafficking? Any of these limitations, we don't need to think about them. Yeah, you don't need to think about them because they don't impact the industry. You make your profits anyway. They affect people's lives. So there has to be a champion, a voice in all spaces. And I worry, as Dan Herrer pointed out last week, what if the reason that Germany has done what they've done is to stop the Germans demanding? What if the next country that rises does the same thing? Because it seems to be that it's industry that lobbies government and moves it forward. It's not the people. The people then get invited by the industry. Come co-sign our thing. We'll put your logo on here. We'll talk and gesture, and we'll placate to a few of your demands with no offense. And I'm not saying that you're the one doing this, but with exactly the same sentiment. We have to do what we can get away with. And I'm getting a bit, and I'm just,
But getting angry at industry isn't going to solve it either, is it?
No, of course, I'm not angry as much at the industry. I'm angry at the people. I'm angry at my own people here. That they just sat on arse going 2 more years, 5 more years. I've been here in 2 to 5 years for fucking 15 years. Like, things will move forward when we conglomerate together. Again, I don't know what that looks like, but I know it has to be a fight for the people, by the people. Industry can put money in and we'll fucking need that money. But our demands should only be for us. We shouldn't give a fuck what the rest of y'all look like. Y'all going to do it anyway. But there needs to be a movement truly championing for the voices of the voiceless.
And you're using words like demands. Demands don't go far.
But we have human rights. They're in violation of many international treaties against us. The law is wrong. It is inhumane. It is immoral. How can we not be angry and outraged?
Because if you want to move things forwards, saying please works better, I found.
We've been saying please for 60 odd years, and what has that got most of us? I get what you're saying. I do. And as I say, I've grown a lot. You've seen me change over the years.
Oh,
I'm not. I'm not always angry. I am in this conversation, I guess, presenting on this, but no, I articulate my arguments, my conversations. I communicate with a lot of people. I network. I try to, move discourse forward in an amicable, meaningful way. But I can't help but I am pushed forward by that fire, by that rage, because it is the injustice that motivates me most. It is the hypocrisy. And I will, as I have, support patient groups. I will, as I have, support industry. I will, as I have, for all I hate the fucking word, I support hemp industries. I will support, CBD or whatever aspect I will give my support to, but I will also give my criticism for. And there are a lot of people, you are one of them, that I respect in these spaces that will have these conversations with me. Because I know even if we can have these disagreements, I know my voice comes into your head in those meetings. And it's like, simple, and it comes out and it affects the discourse in a meaningful way. And that's all I ever want to see is just, like I said, the people who are not interested in opening shops or businesses or cafes or whatever, their freedom to be maximized, their opportunity to participate, even if they choose not to be as valid and as equal as the guy with 10 million investment from Canada or whatever.
I think we've got to also look at compromise as well. And just, I think the difference between myself and you is I'm more willing to compromise as well. I'm more willing to sort of say, well, this is the rules. I've always been a rule follower. I was the good girl in the back of the class, sit down doing the work. And that's how I was. I struggle. And I think I've said to you, you scared the shit out of me when I first met you because you were so forthright. And so, and I couldn't cope with that. And I found that it doesn't get me further forwards being like that. I found that I think both of the methods are needed and both voices are very, very much needed. And I want to hopefully, be able to make sure that the whole of the cannabis community, not the industry, the community as well has a voice, be that patients, be that everybody gets listened to. I can't promise that I can change everything that will be great for everybody, but I listen and I take it on board and not necessarily have the answer there and then, but do my best to make sure that everybody's voice is heard and that it is valid and that it is being thought about. And we're not always going to get what we want. But hopefully that this Germany moving in this direction will move, have this ripple effect across Europe and things will change everywhere and the issues will come up and those problems will be solved and models can be put into place that will help to stop those kind of the money going to gangs which are organized in many, many other crimes, and they are. There is.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I can't talk more about that because but I've seen it firsthand. I have, and I can talk about it because I've seen the variety of different growers that there are, and there are a vast variety. It's not just, people with dreads or people in tracksuits. There's people in suits. There's builders. There's grannies. There's it's every walk of life is doing this.
Yeah.
And I hope I can make sure that voice is heard. It's not easy, but there has to be compromise in there as well. There has to be, all sides have to compromise. And
I think they should compromise on the order, but not the destination. The destination should be the true ubiquitous ending of all cannabis-related offence criminalisation for any individual around the world. A child shouldn't get wrong for it in the same, like all these models in Canada where an 18-year-old can be prosecuted, or an 18-year-old can be prosecuted. These are absurdities. Like there should be no criminalisation to the individual. Kid gets caught with alcohol, cannabis, you take it off them the same way we do with alcohol. You pour it down the drain. At worst, the cops ring the parents if the kid's drunk and take them home. Do you know what I mean? The parent tell the parent. Like it should be community regulation. It has to be taken into consideration because we've been doing that for decades. I think there has to be a difference between organized gangs and that kind of very loose language and collectives of individuals that are seeking to survive austerity and, frankly, a class war in this country. there's difference. Do you know what I mean? And I think exactly the people that are dealing just growing and just in cannabis, that is a very different thing than drug dealing. That is a very different thing than being a criminal. And this is why, again, and I'll say this, I took some flack by people when I made the point about stealing electric. I'm not going to make the moral judgment of what I think of you, but I believe that theft is wrong, even if theft of a corporation in like that. I mean, we can argue again the whole thing of stealing bread to feed your family, extreme circumstances, but I can't see how you can equate those two things. Get the investment money, spend the money in the electric, grow for the crop, sell some of your crop, use that money to pay the electric. Keeps you under the board, keeps you happy. The electric companies are happy to look at you going, yeah, he's growing. Look, 12, oh, he's 18.6 now. Do you know what I mean? They can watch that, but they don't give a shit because you're giving them money. If you suddenly don't give them money, it's a pay-to-play world out there, folks. And again, I see what you're saying, but like for the end destination is where we all agree. I will travel to the stations. I'll read me book between and I'll occupy myself on the train. I'll look out the window and I'll speak when I can and I'll be relevant where it's relevant. But I'm riding to the end of the track. And I don't want to be alone when I get there because we'll never meet that destination. If everyone gets off on that final stop and goes, oh, it's fine. And I'm like, yeah, but there's still this small group of people that are criminalized. There has to still be that fight. And I hope as we get more victories, we get more allies, not less. Do you know what I mean? Because then their success is predicated on the denial of the freedom of others. And that is repugnant to me. And I don't want to shit on the industry. I don't want to shit on the movement. Like I said, it's difficult. I'm struggling, as you can see, with these feelings because I want the liberation. And I understand that you only need to show the models and do this and do that and do that and do that. But at every conversation, they have to go, yeah, but we're doing it for these people back here. Yeah, you're getting rich now and you can afford your mortgages and you go on holiday and you can go to all the expos and you can do all the wonderful things you're doing.
Do you actually think many cannabis companies in this country are making any money?
Oh, not in this country, but the big boys that are paying for it, waiting to buy them out, are the boys waiting for the licenses who actually funded this shit. Yeah, most of the companies in the country now are set up to fail or set up to be bought out within 2 to 3 years. They are not lifers. They are here to facilitate bringing in the international cartels in the same way I believe that Germany is going to fall and falter and become corporates running the clubs and providing for the clubs. That's where I think that's going. I think at least Malta wrote into their law that the clubs can't be corporations.
I know there can't be not-for-profit in Germany. It has to be not-for-profit.
Not-for-profit is a very interpretable neoliberal term. In legalese, it can mean many different things. There can be a lot of money, and that money could be used in research and development and other things. And that's as the law stands now. And we can see how quick Thailand, like you said, is going to switch up, and what that's going to then look like. And for most people, it'll just become a linguistics trick. Yeah, it's medicinal. If they don't put in the license infrastructure and it's all about the language, then that's what they're going to try and cut down on. But they're going to end, and it's whack-a-mole. And they're going to just keep going through the same problems that every system will go through until hopefully there's a collective realization in this world, hopefully while I'm alive and still have some fucking hair on my head. God, I'm graying quite badly. The war is over. That I can figure out what the fuck I want to do with my life. That I can stop, if I want to, stop writing, stop worrying, stop reading, stop researching, stop being obsessed with this, like the mouse is of the cat. Do you know what I mean? I feel this ever invasive predator, and I don't want to yield through lying or manipulating my position to feel safe. That's why I am so public. Is I feel that's the only thing that gives me some safety. I know it's a paradox, but hey, it works in my head.